The early morning sun cut through the mountain peaks onto the frost-covered ground, where thousands of men who were struggling to breathe waited. At the center of this army stood Hannibal Barca, reviewing the horizon. His men, a mix of soldiers from Africa, Spain, and Gaul, watched him with a blend of exhaustion and hope. He had just led them through what would be told as stories for centuries: the crossing of the Alps. Behind him lay a path of hardship, marked by the bodies of those who didn't survive the dangerous climb. Ahead beckoned the fertile plains of Italy, the battleground where he would face the might of Rome. The journey Hannibal had made to reach this point had begun many decades earlier. Hannibal was born in 247 BC into a world defined by the rivalry between Carthage and Rome. The First Punic War had just ended in defeat for Carthage, leaving them scarred not only by losing territory, but in the hearts of the Carthaginians. Carthage, once a strong sea power, was now forced to give up Sicily and pay heavy reparations to Rome. That defeat had planted seeds of deep resentment in the minds of Carthaginians, especially in Hamilcar Barca, Hannibal's father and a general who blamed the political leaders of Carthage for the loss. It was Hamilcar who instilled hatred for Rome in the young Hannibal. According to legend, at 9 years old, Hannibal was taken by his father into a temple where he was made to swear an oath over a sacrificial altar, never to be a friend to Rome. That promise drove Hannibal's life, shaping his actions, decisions, and strategies. After losing Sicily, Hamilcar focused Carthage's efforts on Spain, which was full of resources and crucial for any recovery plan. Hannibal spent his childhood on the battlefield, learning the tactics and discipline of war firsthand as his father expanded Carthaginian control in Iberia. When Hamilcar perished in battle in 229 BC against local tribes, the command passed to Hannibal's brother-in-law, Hasdrubal the Fair. Under him, Hannibal spent 8 years learning the skills of leadership and became known as one of the best cavalry commanders. When Hasdrubal was assassinated in 221 BC, the army chose Hannibal as their leader. He was only 26 and inherited not only a veteran force, but also the unfulfilled ambition of avenging Carthage's earlier defeat. His first major challenge came at Saguntum, a city allied with Rome, but within Carthage's sphere of influence. In 219 BC, he attacked the city for 8 continuous months until it fell. Rome responded with an ultimatum demanding Hannibal's surrender. The Carthaginian Senate refused, and the Second Punic War began in 218 BC. Unlike most battles where armies prepared for direct confrontation, Hannibal came up with a daring plan that would change military strategy forever. Hannibal knew Rome would expect a fight in Iberia or North Africa, so he decided to march to Rome itself. Gathering an army of about 90,000 infantry, 12,000 cavalry, and 37 war elephants, he began his journey north. His route took him over the Pyrenees and through hostile Gallic territory, reaching the Rhone. Crossing the Rhone was a major challenge, mainly due to the elephants. Hannibal overcame it by using local boats and building rafts, a testament to his ingenuity and his troops' discipline. The last obstacle before Italy was the Alps, an unprecedented task for such a large army. Conditions were brutal. Narrow paths and steep drops claimed many lives, and snowstorms blinded and froze the soldiers. Yet, Hannibal's leadership kept them moving. He hired local guides, found ways through difficult paths, and even heated rocks and poured vinegar on them to break through barriers. After 15 days of relentless effort, the remnants of his army finally made their way down into the plains of northern Italy, battered but not defeated. The Romans were caught by surprise. Their military strategy, built around strong legions and defensive warfare, did not prepare them for an invasion that bypassed natural barriers and reached deep into their territory. Hannibal's arrival threw Rome into panic, but true to their resilient nature, they prepared a response by sending consuls with armies to face him. Hannibal's brilliance as a strategist was first shown at the Battle of the Trebia River in December 218 BC. He lured the Romans into his trap. His troops pretended to retreat, drawing the Romans across the freezing river and weakening them with cold. Hidden Carthaginian forces attacked from behind, surrounding the Roman legions. It was a decisive victory that demonstrated Hannibal's skill in using terrain and weather to his advantage. Yet Rome's losses only seemed to strengthen the Senate's resolve. The following spring, 217 BC, Gaius Flaminius led a force to intercept Hannibal. Hannibal's scouts spotted Flaminius's approach, and the Carthaginian general chose a new site for an ambush, Lake Trasimene. The lake, surrounded by hills, was a perfect spot. Hannibal lined his troops along the slopes and lured Flaminius's army into the narrow pass. The further the Romans went, the more the trap closed around them. Carthaginian forces came down from the hills and blocked any chance of escape. Nearly 15,000 Romans were killed, and many others drowned in the lake trying to flee. Rome responded by appointing Quintus Fabius Maximus as dictator, a leader who favored a more cautious approach. Fabius's strategy, later called Fabian, involved harassment without engaging in full battles, focusing mainly on cutting off Hannibal's supplies. This frustrated both Hannibal and the Roman public, who saw Fabius as too timid. When his term ended, Rome returned to more aggressive tactics. The next major battle was at Cannae in 216 BC. Here, Hannibal's mastery of terrain and battlefield deception reached its peak. Facing about 86,000 Romans, Hannibal used a perfect encircling move. His center slowly retreated, drawing the Romans deeper, while his African and Spanish infantry on the sides moved in. The Roman army was completely surrounded and attacked from all sides. The slaughter was unmatched. Estimates suggest 50,000 to 70,000 Romans died in a single day. Despite this incredible victory, Hannibal chose not to march on Rome. Historians still debate why: lack of siege equipment, exhausted troops, or the hope that more allies would join him if he waited. His cavalry commander, Hannibal, famously said, "You know how to win a victory, Hannibal, but not how to use it." Bloodied but undefeated, Rome regrouped. The Romans avoided direct battles for the next decade and shifted the war to other areas. Led by Scipio Africanus, they captured Carthaginian strongholds in Spain and cut off Hannibal's supply lines. In 204 BC, Scipio brought the war to Carthage itself, forcing Hannibal to return home. At the Battle of Zama in 202 BC, Hannibal faced Scipio, who had studied his strategies and knew how to counter them. Scipio's disciplined forces neutralized Hannibal's war elephants and outmaneuvered the Carthaginian infantry. This defeat ended Carthage's attempt for dominance, as Rome imposed harsh terms. Carthage lost its fleet, paid heavy reparations, and gave up its overseas territories. Hannibal spent the rest of his life in exile, aiding enemies of Rome until Roman agents cornered him in Bithynia. He chose death over capture and poisoned himself in 183 BC. History says his final words were that he was glad to free Rome from its constant pursuit. Hannibal remained Rome's most feared enemy, and his campaigns inspired changes in Roman military strategy, leading to reforms that shaped their future. The Punic Wars set Rome on its path to empire, but Hannibal's name would forever symbolize daring and almost unbelievable ambition. Subscribe to learn more about the greatest military leaders in history and their lasting impact on the world. Share your thoughts on Hannibal's epic struggle and the lessons it teaches us today.